Hello to the curious and the thoughtful. It's Ellie again. Nice to see you. I have a question for you. Have you ever noticed how shame spreads faster than truth? It does. Shaming people rather than speaking truthfully with courage is always so much easier. And there's a really easy way to kind of compare them to each other with an analogy of some kind. Shame and shaming people, the reason why it's easy is because it's a little bit like, you're feeling a bit peckish and you're on your way home and you've got good quality stuff in the fridge, but you see a 7-Eleven and you go in there and you grab a donut because you just want to feed yourself now. Well, that's shaming people. Very similar, kind of the quick fix, high sugar donut at 7-Eleven result. But truth requires courage. And that is more like driving past the 7-Eleven, even though your stomach is growling, going all the way home, getting all those ingredients out of your fridge, and you're just ravenous now, but you stop and you cook yourself a really healthy meal. That is truth. It's harder, it takes longer, and it requires courage, but it's more sustaining. It lasts longer. You know that donut you had at 7-Eleven, that disappeared by the time you got home and probably also ate a meal at home as well. In today's episode, that was just my silly start, but in today's episode, I'm going to show you how shame works online. And I'm going to give you 3 simple, scripts that you can use to set boundaries that are going to hold up against shaming comments that are designed to crush you. You don't have to collapse into some kind of silence. You don't have to be afraid to speak, because countering shame online is not about being polite to the shamers. That's not the point. The whole point is to rise up despite those shamers and to allow your voice to be heard. Okay, so shame sounds a little bit one-dimensional, but actually it takes lots of different forms. It's not just about pointing the finger and saying something nasty. It comes in lots of different forms. And you know what? Everybody is guilty of it a little bit, me included. If I remember, I'll tell you something that I even have done on this channel in the past, which I'm trying not to do. I must remember. I hope I don't forget, but I might remember. I might even tack it on later if I do forget. But we're human, so we all have examples of where we've used that 7-Eleven donut kind of method of reacting to people instead of that good quality truth, going home and cooking the proper meal kind of style of response. And so it's not about shaming the shamers because, we're all guilty because we're all human, or, we're all people, let's just say. And some of us are even human. But it's about seeing the patterns that help us to choose differently, because the whole point is to try to grow as a person and to develop and to ascend and to transcend some of the chaos out there. It just makes us happier and more fulfilled as people. All of the following comments have been received by me on this channel. And I've chosen them because although these ones are cut and pasted, they are typical shaming comments, and I've received others that are similar along similar lines in the past. And so these are very common types of shaming comments that have been received. The first one, I'll read it to you. It says, "Everyone here can see you're just making this up. Stop pretending you're a teacher. You're misleading people." This kind of a comment is called the pylon. It's designed to get support. And so the shamer will post a comment that they know people will press like on, or it's there to design the mob mentality so that other people will leave similar types of comments. It's to be able to create some kind of a coalition against the target of your comment. The next one, let's read this one. It goes, "If you were really enlightened, you wouldn't talk about politics at all. A real spiritual guide rises above the news." This is a purity test kind of shaming comment. The whole point of it is to make the target feel guilty for not meeting some kind of impossible standard of, in my case, it was true spirituality. Okay, so let's read the next one. And the comment went, "Wow, thanks for the therapy session, Dr. Jung Wannabe. Maybe stick to tarot cards. At least that was entertaining." So this is called the mockery mask. It uses humor or sarcasm to belittle a person. The next one, let's read that. This one goes, "Unsubscribed. I came here for spiritual guidance, not your personal opinions. You've lost me forever." This one is where the shamer is trying to exile their target from the group by threatening to unsubscribe or by threatening to boycott or something like that. Yep. So the next comment, it goes, "You Aussies think you know better than Americans about our politics. Stick to your own lane." This one is an identity shamer type of comment. It's attacking a person based on their nationality or their gender or something else that is an identifying feature for that person. The next one, let's have a look. Let's read the next one. It goes, "I know you're going to delete this comment because you aren't a real empath. If you can't handle criticism, you're not as authentic as you claim." This one is called virtue one-upmanship. It's the whole point of the shaming comment is to sort of elevate the commenter by shaming you. So they try to elevate themselves by writing a comment that creates shame or makes them look as though they have more virtue than you. Let's look at the next one. The comment goes, "It's disappointing that you don't support real psychics like, blank. It shows you're not really spiritual." Now, these comments tend to be from a masked avenger. And the whole point of this comment is actually the person who is making the comment is often the person who's named in the comment as being the real person. They adopt a second identity in order to defend themselves and promote themselves. And then we've got one here that goes, "I'm just worried you're alienating people by being so outspoken. Maybe you should tone it down if you want to keep your audience." This one is called the subtle silencer. It kind of frames disagreement as a kind of concern. We then have another one here, and let's read it out. It goes, "Some channels talk a lot about courage and boundaries, but funny how they can't handle a little honest disagreement." This is a way of indirectly shaming a person. It's talking about you without actually naming you, right? And then we have another one here. This one goes, "I can't believe you said that. You are literally harming people with this message. Do better." This one I call the outrage amplifier. It inflates a very small disagreement and it turns it into a moral crisis. So it's just sort of overinflating the importance of a single statement that someone made or something like that. And then we've got another one here, which I'm going to read. And it goes, "I was really triggered by your t-shirt today. It was insensitive to the raw emotions of people fighting real injustice and it undermines your credibility." This one is called the fault shifter. It's basically a projection onto someone else. It's blaming you for the reaction that they experienced, putting you kind of down there as the responsible party for how they feel. And it has other qualities as well because, the undermining your credibility and things are probably also part of a different form of shaming as well. But, mostly it's a projection. And then the final one, which I have to say is one of my favorites. And that is for the ones who really don't know what to say. Then you've got something that's just plain insulting. And this one simply said, "fat suit." And it's called the body blow. there's, an understanding that women often will, their weakness is their physical appearance in terms of how they feel about themselves, or where their confidence comes from, or something like that. So when you really don't have anything to say, anything intelligent to say, or anything that, has substance, then a cheap insult is the way to go. That's the way to shame another person, is you find something that you think that they might be sensitive about, and you just stick it in a comment. So basically, the mechanics of shame are that it gives the appearance of exposing the other person. And it's also aimed at silencing the other person. But it uses the crowd as a tool against the other person. So you can see that it pretends, or it tries to appear as though it's exposing you for something, when in fact you're just on the receiving end of this shaming comment. Doesn't mean you deserve to be. And it's written in such a way as to try and prevent you from having your own voice. And the manipulative comments are also designed to use crowd mentality or mob mentality to do the dirty work for the shamer by creating a spark of a topic that other people can pile on top of. So people who press like on these shaming comments are being used as shield by the shamer. It's kind of like outsourcing crowd dynamics. Yeah, and it's used a lot on the internet. I have I have a real life experience of how this happened on a very large scale on this channel recently. And many of you have seen it happen, but I'm not sure whether you recognized it for what it was. And so I'm going to just give you this little personal anecdote of what took place. About 2 months ago, I did a hard stop on tarot on this channel, and I explained the reason why in a video that I called Goodbye, which is still, you can find it on the list of videos here on this channel. At the time, I was emotionally exhausted by the endless pressure to be political and specifically to take sides on every single issue, and to use tarot and spirituality as a means of doing that, which seemed very counterintuitive to me. The tipping point, however, was the way that shame was weaponized in my own comments section by certain viewers in response to a really high-profile death, which is a very sensitive matter. I noticed that a few people were dropping shame comments in this video, and they were very carefully worded in order to appear righteous. And other people would press like on those comments. It wasn't actually feedback. What it was a manipulation of mob mentality. And the likes were when people pressed like on the shaming comments, they were actually acting like a shield. So what they were doing when they pressed like is the shamer who wrote the comment could kind of appear as though everyone agreed with them, when in fact they had been manipulating the audience with this comment. It was a real life example of the first type of shaming strategy that I mentioned, the pylon that amplifies the shamer by using mob mentality. And I understand mob mentality really well because I wrote the National Strategic Guidance on how to police public order. And the way to police public order, first and foremost, is you have to have an understanding of mob mentality, because a finite number of police officers may have to control thousands of people who are in a mob mentality moment. And so I understand mob mentality when I see it, even if it's in the comment section of my channel. I knew if I left those comments up, they would spread. And not because they were true, but because shame is contagious. It is. It's like gossip is contagious. It's exactly the same kind of thing. And I'm not going to allow my channel to become a breeding ground for that kind of behavior. Plus, of course, the video itself was a boundary setting video. And it isn't a boundary unless you maintain it after you've set it. And so the shaming comments, which even though they were small in number, they were creating this mob mentality. And they are an attempt to silence me as a content creator. And so setting the boundary and maintaining the boundary is the way that you protect your voice. And so I did whatever I had to do in order to do that. In some cases, I deleted comments. In some cases, I responded. And I obviously also maintained my ethical and spiritual boundary by staying firm to my beliefs, which are based on my personal virtues. And so that's the way that you use the truth to counter shame, is you understand who you are, you understand what your boundaries are, and then you stick to your boundaries without having to counter shame, because then you're kind of just at the other person's level. Being human, of course, means that, I'm not perfect, and I have been known to respond less than favorably from time to time. And I actually, before I forget, I will tell you the example that was on my mind earlier that I said I was going to talk about. That comment that said fat suit that I received, I actually did respond to that person. And I think I said something along the lines of, thank you. Here's my email address. Send me a photo of yourself so that we can critique it in an up and coming episode. But, they didn't send me their photo. I didn't think that they would. That was not the right thing for me to do. In fact, I'm going to show you the very simple responses that do work, that I try to adopt, and also the alternatives of what you can do as well. These are, I've given you lots of examples. Obviously, I have plenty of examples because as a content creator, we're always getting this. And this is not about me. All content creators get this kind of thing. Even I've seen it on cooking channels, on gardening channels, on all kinds of, travel channels, or book review channels, all kinds of things. The internet breeds this nasty shaming kind of element, and it also is ripe to be able to manipulate the mob and to use crowd dynamics against your intended target. But it's a form of shaming is a form of, it's projection often, but it's also cowardice. Truth is courage. These are things that everybody in life experiences, though, because the internet is rife with it, and you don't have to be a content creator to experience it. You can also experience it as someone who's watching content and just wants to say something, and then suddenly, bang, somebody's going to try and shame you. So you may have experienced something like this yourself. It also goes beyond the online experience and could affect you at work or even at home, with friends, with family, with acquaintances. Someone drops a shaming comment about you suddenly, and other people nod their head kind of mindlessly, and suddenly you went from feeling good to feeling as though you're outnumbered, and you feel weakened, as though you can't speak anymore. I've had this happen with people who are very close to me. And I know how it feels, and I know that I'm not alone. I think everyone experiences this, and perhaps you have as well. But this is not truth. Shaming a person in that way, that's not truth. That's just the way crowd dynamics and mob mentality is manipulated by people who tend to be cowardly. And you have the right to draw a boundary for yourself, because that boundary is how you maintain your voice and also maintain your personal empowerment. Now, that experience that I talked about with my video and some of the comments that were received and what they were designed to do, that experience, it showed me firsthand how shame tries to make us feel really small, how it tries to diminish our voice. And it can happen to anyone. So let's now talk about courage and what that looks like in the same kind of online environment. So these are the mechanics of courage. Unlike shaming, which is driven by the need for applause, you shame people because you want recognition. Courage is driven by boundaries that we set for ourselves and that we maintain. There's no point having a boundary set unless you're planning to maintain it. So instead of outsourcing, to the crowd in order to get them to do your dirty work for you and hiding behind a kind of mob mentality, courage is about saying, this is what I am willing to permit inside my space, and this is what I'm not willing to permit. That's it. Having very firm boundary. So let's go back to a few of the shaming examples, because I want to show you how to reply with courage to these comments. I've only picked 3 of these comments because there's 3 styles of shaming that we need to have a script in order to respond to. And that script can generally be used for each of those 3 comments, or those 3 scripts for each of those corresponding types of comments. So the first type of shaming comment was the one that's insulting. And the example that I used was the one that said, "Wow, thanks for the therapy session, Dr. Jung wannabe. Maybe stick to tarot cards. At least that was entertaining." See, that was designed to insult me. Okay. The courageous reply goes along the lines of, "I'm not here to play a role. I work hard to deliver meaningful, well-researched content. If you were looking for tarot, there are plenty of channels you can go to." Can you see how that reply, I'm not stooping to their level, I'm replying with dignity, but I'm also confronting their insult for exactly what it is. The next shaming comment is relational. This is about creating sort of a preface for what the rules are in the relationship. And the one that I've chosen is this one. It says, "Unsubscribed. I came here for spiritual guidance, not your personal opinions. You've lost me forever." You see, it's defining the relationship, right? Well, the courageous reply is, "You are free to leave. I'm going to keep showing up for the people who find value here." And I think I ended up saying something along those lines to that person. The third kind of comment, and this is the one that really gets to us, this is the comment that is designed to stick inside your mind, to mess with your head. And content creators across the board struggle with this. It doesn't matter what your genre is. And I know that a lot of spiritual content creators will definitely be struggling with this because the empathic, kind of sensitive personality will really have a lot of trouble getting this comment out of their head. Even if they get 100 praises and this one comment, this is the one that's going to stick, because that's just the way empathic or sensitive people are, is they internalize a lot. And here's the comment. And the one I chose was, "I know that you're going to delete this comment because you aren't a real empath. If you can't handle criticism, you're not as authentic as you claim." Now, this presents a moral dilemma for the person who receives this comment because it leaves them thinking, gosh, I really shouldn't, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be deleting comments because it makes me look like a coward. Or they hide behind deleting comments because they don't want anyone to even see that someone has been threatening that you delete the comment. You see, it kind of really messes with their head because it's tackling their authenticity as a person and saying that their authenticity is only valid if they do what this person says that they should do. They've set the standard for them, you see, and so they can internalize this for days. Here's the courageous reply, and that is, "I'm not here for name calling, and it's not my job to carry other people's projections," because that's the truth. The only reason why you got this comment from that person is that person is projecting, and it's not your job to carry their emotional baggage with you. So you make it very clear. But you see, you've also maintained your integrity. And your dignity. You've maintained your integrity, but you've also maintained your dignity. So these all boil down to 3 different kinds of courage scripts that you can word in ways that are best for you. And it's really easy to remember that there are 3 different kinds. You've got your verbal script for the people who are trying to insult you and make you look bad in front of someone else. You've got the relational script, which is how you respond when someone threatens you or tries to trap you into a response. And then you have the internal script, which is the mantra that you tell yourself that reminds you that you don't have to engage, that their problems and their projection is not something that you need to carry. Okay, so here's a practical takeaway that kind of brings it all together, because I love my quick and easy rituals, especially when they come with the backstory that shows you how come they're real and how come they really work. This is a 3-step courage ritual that you can use online, whether or not you're a content creator, regardless of who you are. It just helps to get you out of a shaming situation, and it brings back the empowerment to your voice. Okay. It's designed to maintain your boundaries and strengthen your voice so that you can feel confident to speak, regardless of what platform you're on. Step 1 is pause. That's my step for everything. You know, if you ever want to know what the first step is for anything Ellie's going to tell you, it's always stop or pause. Because when we pause, we get that moment of silence. It's our inner silence. It allows us to get proper perspective and to plan our thoughts. Okay? Step 1, that was pause. Step 2 is to recognize the boundary that's being crossed by the comment. So is it a verbal boundary? So is it an insult? Is it a relational boundary? So is it a demand of some kind or some kind of ultimatum? Or is it an internal boundary where it's trying to mess with your head? And then the third step is to exit that shaming environment with dignity and with integrity. So the very quick kind of response, if it's a verbal boundary script, then basically the short little takeaway that you'd want to build around is a response that's something like, I'm not here for put downs. For the relational boundary script, focus on something like, oh, you're free to leave anytime you like. You feel free to go. Yep. So, doesn't work. And then the internal boundary script is all about saying something along the lines of, this is not my problem to carry. I'm not responsible for your projections. That's it. You also have the option to just not engage. Don't let it become digested by you. Because remember, there are supporters out there, like the wonderful people who support me on this channel. Focus on those people because they're the ones who've earned your time and they're the ones who give you joy. The other ones, you know what? Eventually they get bored and they move on. I am 100% determined to be me, to be myself on this channel. And one thing that I want to share is that it's my wholehearted intention to provide a space here where we can grow together. Like the header on the thumbnail for today's show, and I think even on the title it says it as well, the video title. Today's show is about demonstrating our community spine online. Not so that we can fight each other, but so that we can stand tall together, side by side and strengthened on this channel. Remember, if you love today's show, then please help out. Subscribe, share your experiences or support other people in the comments. And I will see you tomorrow. Welcome to the new world. This is Ellie Dreams Down Under. I love knowing you're here. I love your comments. And I'll see you in my dreams. Bye.